Oh, all right. So we got Trav Bell here. He's the bucket list guy. Is the quote unquote. We got a group of people called the bucket listers. He's done quite incredible things, and just what's going on, Trav? Glad to have you on.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ryan. Excellent. Stoked to be invited.
Yeah. So just real quick, Trav, just for everybody, kind of tell us a little bit about you and bucket list, .com and your whole mission there to help people attack life by doing that one thing that they want to knock off the list.
Yeah, well, I've been running around the world as the bucket list guy for about 10 years now. And prior to that, I was in the personal fitness training industry. So I did that for 20 years. I was the first to franchise fitness training studios here in Australia. Did that, did about 2 million personal training sessions, tens of thousands of clients across Australia. Did that for 20 years, and then went through my own bout of depression, mental health challenges. And I got out of that old business and into this new one sort of by default. I found myself in life coaching courses, learning all about psychology and, what we call neuro-linguistic programming and all sorts of things. And a friend of mine said, "Hey, why don't you teach this stuff?" And then I put on a seminar, my first seminar, which was pretty shit when I look back on it compared to what I do now. I was
Right.
really, really nervous. Had about 40 people in the room, and I put in all the personal development stuff that I'd learned, and I shared with the group that I had a list actually written down since I was 18. I'm 47 now. I think the grey hairs in the beard sort of shows you that. So I had one written down since I was 18. I shared this with the group, and no one really knew this about me. So wherever I went in university and stuff, shared housing, or my little blue folder with my written down goals to do before I die, travelled with me. And I shared this with the group and inspired them. And at the end of it, one of the participants, Jo, she said, "How's all this list to do before you die stuff? It's really fired people up. It's like a bucket list. You're like the bucket list guy." And I went, light bulb moment. This is again 10 years ago. And that night I went home and registered the domain name, thebucketlistguy.com. And I've been doing that ever since. So I've been, traveling along that lane with the blinkers on ever since. And I guess you could call me what we call a thought leader in that space. Now, having, I do coaching around it, I do speaking around it, put on events. We've got bucket list coaches around the world now teaching my stuff, done the TED talk, and it's the filter that I've pretty much run my life through for the last 10 years, which has been awesome. So I haven't really gone outside of that. And it's helped me run around the world, and allowed me to do my bucket list and inspire others to do the same. And I've really created a life philosophy around it, which has been heaps of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I had no idea, Trav, that you were doing that for so long. And then especially the fitness stuff. So like I said, I've been following you for a little bit and then, watching a lot of your stuff. Once I think I started on Instagram following you, and then I started listening to your videos, some of your talks and stuff. And um, the first thing is just I like your
Mm.
energy. It's really fun. You got a cool energy, get everyone excited and getting the crowd involved. That was really cool. So yeah,
I
kind
just had a coffee. I just had a coffee too. I just had a coffee. So that might, and I've had a lot of coffee today. So that could be, it could be real. It could be fake. I don't know, mate. But no, I appreciate that. And how old are you, Ryan?
I'm actually 26.
Yeah. See, and it's pretty sad, like, right? Like you're 26, I'm 47. So yes, I could be your father. And but for a 26-year-old to say to a 47-year-old, dude, you got a fair bit of energy. I like your outlet. Like that actually, to be honest, man, that really inspires me, because it's guys like you, and I've got a 23-year-old son. It's guys of your age that I really are the leaders of tomorrow, that are paving the way, that I want to inspire, that I want to have enough energy to, and be and not be like this kind of grown up weirdo that like, "No, dude, you're too old," like you're just a creep now. So you want to have, not try too hard either, but at least, um, when you've been doing this for a long time, you gather a lot of wisdom, and it feels really good, man, to be able to share that, still, where people get it as young as yourself and even younger. Because if you look at, as we both know, one of my biggest drivers is mental health, things like depression, anxiety. We've got this thing called the loneliness epidemic now, and that's an epidemic. So that means it's bad. We know what a pandemic is, thanks for coronavirus, but this is an epidemic, and this is the adverse effect that social media has actually have. A lot of people feel very alone. So if I can get these personal development tools, this know-how, this wisdom out to people like yourself in an enthusiastic way where you can just pick it up and then run with it, I'd rather that than, like the overprescription of antidepressants, and all the other, the other ways to medicate. I'd rather go the self-help route rather than artificial help, if you know what I mean.
Oh, interesting. I mean, I've never actually heard that before in that way. Self help versus artificial help, but it makes a lot of sense. And upon further research, I'm sure I'd find some of the staggering things that you found, and probably one of the reasons why it motivates you so much. And I'm actually curious. You mentioned the
Yeah.
loneliness epidemic and how social media ties into that. So I'm curious if you can unpack that. So I've never, again, that's kind of a new concept to me, put in that way.
Look, it's a new concept to everyone, but if you Google it, the loneliness epidemic, I was due to, just before we got lockdowns here in Australia. So at the time of this recording, we're right in the middle of lockdowns here. So, and in Victoria, which is a state of Australia, where we've gone into, it's re-spread and it's even worse now. So and just before the coronavirus kind of hit, I was due to do a talk at one of the top universities here in Melbourne to 600 people there. And it was about the loneliness epidemic. And I was due to do a talk, and I didn't even know anything about it. And they said, "Oh, can you talk about it because because of what you do already, and if you just research it, you'll be able to put together a talk." Anyway, I've done a talk for them before, so they trusted me, and I did my research, talked to some gurus, and then went, "Holy shit, this is massive." Why? Is because social media lends itself to us in that we are all comparing our behind the scenes footage with someone else's highlights reel.
Hmm.
Do you understand that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and as a result, people feel even more disassociated. And because we're not communicating, you look at it, we're not communicating on the phones like we used to. It's just a quick text, or and this is just the way it is. So we'd like to think that we're more connected than ever, which we are, but at the surface level, but not in a deep and meaningful and purposeful way where it gives us fulfillment. And we can really be easily lost in the herd, lost in the noise as a result of that, which is freaking sad. Because it's not just the loneliness epidemic. What happens as a result? Things like depression, things like suicide. Things like anxiety. Anxiety is just a whole anxiety, depression. They go hand in glove. So it's a pretty serious thing that we've got to address. So look, as far as I'm concerned, we're helping people through this whole bucket list concept. I just like to think I'm doing my bit, not just me, but through our coaches around it. We've got certified bucket list coaches now in 21 countries teaching my stuff, this kind of bucket list life philosophy, which is awesome. And we'd like to think that we're putting out this personal development, these tools in a really cool, applicable, tangible way where people can just pick it up and run with it, without it being kind of weird or too rah-rah. You know what I mean? And and that's the whole that's why I exist right now, man. Like that's my whole why. That's the mission, is to help people live a more purposeful and more fulfilled life.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely a need for that, like you said. I mean, the connectivity of everybody, it's almost like smoke and mirrors. We have the illusion of real connection, but it's not actually being applied in the way that it was probably originally meant for, and it kind of just became secondary entertainment and all kinds of stuff. But no, I agree. And I'm kind of curious as how, you mentioned a lot of the psychology stuff and the neural linguistic programming, I think is what you said. So how does
Yeah.
that stuff kind of tie into what you're doing with the bucket list philosophy, or is that kind of the primary piece of it?
No, the bucket list is pretty much the brand. That's the brand. Like you wouldn't, if I came on here and said I'm a positive psychologist and I talk about neurolinguistic programming and social dynamics and the Ikagi principle, and uh, you'd be like, yeah, whatever. But because I am the bucket list guy, and we do have bucket list coaches, it's that's the thing that gets attention. Now that people think that, and you probably may or may not have known this, but yeah, I've been running around the world doing my bucket list. But the that's the brand but underneath the surface, what we really teach and what I've taught for years and years really is, Ryan, it's the science of happiness. So positive psychology, there's two types of psychology, right? There's regressive psychology. If you sit on a couch next to a psychologist, they're going to go through your belief system into your own unconscious behavior patterns, into your unconscious belief systems, unpack all that, repattern it, give you new strategies to help you be quote unquote normal, right? So you can function in society and everyone gets along and you're not a psycho. All right. All right. That's kind of regressive psychology. Now, what positive psychology does is it's more of a new school. It's part of psychology, but it's more new school. It's come into force. It's designed to help people be happier. All right. So things like gratitude, mindfulness, helping people create more meaning, more purpose, more fulfillment in their life. These are all what we want people to do more of, so they excel in life and they can be abnormal. They can be better than they are, or where they want to be, and step into their potential even more. So really it is about the science of happiness. I could have been called the happiness guy, but that's a bit just not me. So it's a bit lame. But the pos psych is, and you want to look into it. It's pioneered by a guy by the name of Dr. Martin Seligman, who's done a lot of stuff around positive psychology. Tal Ben-Shahar is another guy. There's a whole heap of different, teachings around it, and it helps people be better. And when you go into companies, it's and you do big programs with groups of people, the regressive psychology, going into the backstory of a person, can really scare the shit out of like a big group of people. So when you go into a company, it's better to focus on how can we make this team better and all the people better in order to move them forward. People don't want normal anymore. They want performance-based psychology, and that's what pos psych is. So all of this stuff, together with NLP and all the other stuff that I mentioned, really what we teach, what I've been teaching for years, is a soup of all of that, just with this brand of bucket list over the top of it. And that's designed to get attention and be the filter that I run everything through personally, and how I live my life. But it's really about helping people be happier, more and lead more meaningful lives
Yeah,
before they
no,
get given the use by date.
right. No, absolutely. And I think this overall, the industry, Trav, has grown like tremendously from what I've, in the last, couple decades. I mean, it's getting incredibly big. And yet there's still so many people that are kind of like you said, it can kind of scare people when you start talking about, self-help, and you start trying to like invest into people's lives with words and principles and things. Like there's still from what I understand, my experience with people is there's still like a large percentage of folks that they just like it turns them off kind of. They don't really, they don't really invest in it. They don't put much
Yeah.
stock into it. So I'm curious, like all your experience in doing this stuff and talking about positive psychology and giving people like self-help tools and things, like what do you think closes that gap for people?
Okay, so it's a good question. It's been delivered it's been delivered by egomaniacs,
Interesting.
um, who, the rah rah seminar. It's got its place. If you go, if you go to a seminar, you leave 8 foot and bulletproof, and you're all hyped up. But if you don't have a support system after that, there's going to be no implementation. There's going to be no deployment of only the chosen few who have a big why, who are very driven, who can systematically, deploy the learnings or integrate the learnings into their life. They're the ones that will carry, carry it forward. But for a lot of people, unfortunately, and I've shared the stage with a guy by the name of Darren Hardy, who used to run success.com. Presented with him over in San Diego a couple of years ago, and he was saying something like 85% of people who go to self-help seminars don't do anything. So it's a bit of a churn and burn kind of industry. And I guess there's also a lot of fake gurus out there.
Yeah, I've heard, because you see so much of that. Like I hear so much
Us
about
and
fake people,
now
but
it's even worse.
how do you know? How do you know like really who's fake and who's not? Because with social media and
Oh mate,
internet, like it's so difficult to really, unless you know the person. Like I don't know how you
yeah, yeah,
tell.
yeah. It's a really good point. How do you tell if someone's real or fake? Do your research, and with respect, I'm not going to, if someone's going to teach me about business, I want to know that they've actually run a serious business and not just taught about, you know, some bullshit online business where they've made a couple of grand, like a serious business.
Right.
So I want to know that they've actually, like for me, I was in the shit a few years ago. I was led up the garden path, or should I say down a rabbit hole with my last accountant, and he was hopeless. And I ended up having this big tax bill problem, and I was like, oh, fuck, why didn't I get, why didn't I get on top of this? And and it was my fault. I picked the wrong guy, and I didn't check up on him, and I left him to his own devices and let him run things, and I just didn't check. So anyway, got out of that, but then I went on a hunt for both, um, for an accountant, financial planner kind of accountant, and a lawyer that I could trust. I didn't trust anyone. So I remember I interviewed even though I was going to pay them a bunch of money, I interviewed 5 accountants. I interviewed them for my business. I said, if you're going to, even though you might know, stuff, about this more than I do at this point in time, I know what I'm looking for. So I interviewed 5 accountants, and I went into their office so I could meet them face to face. And I asked them this question. I said, mate, with all due respect, I'm in this for the long haul. I've got these businesses and blah, blah, blah. I want to know what you own personally and how much money your business makes.
Yeah.
And some were very cagey about that. So I'm like, yep, done. You're cancelled. The one, yeah, gone. I mean, if you can't be open with me, why the fuck would I be open with you?
True.
So the guy I landed on, who still to this day is a real deal for me, he said, yeah, no worries. No one's ever asked me that before. And here's what I own. Here's my balance sheet. Here's my profit and loss. And this is how much me and my family take home. And it's just like heaps of info. I went, you're my guy.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, dig deep into their backstory. Don't just believe a nice sales page. Look at, we've got the pleasure of we got the ability to look at reviews and stuff these days, testimonials and whatnot, and you can see whether someone's the real deal. What is their business history? Have they, are they an overnight success, or, what's their backstory? And if they haven't been on social media, if they haven't been in and out of businesses and stuff, and none of that's online, well, the online world has been around for quite some time. That's just weird.
Yeah.
If they're not on socials, if they're not having, no history on LinkedIn or whatever, then that's just weird. I'm sure you agree.
Yeah, no,
So I
absolutely.
think we've got to look past the sales pages. We've got to look past the Lamborghinis and everything else. That big mansions and fucking everyone carrying on about, I run a 6-figure business, 7-figure business, and here's my Lambo, and here's this and here's that. Mate, you rented it. You don't own it.
Yeah.
And so let's cut to the chase.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, there's a lot of that verbiage that these guys have at least, and I'll give them this credit. They're studious enough and clever enough to learn some psychology and say the right words to people to kind of get them
Yeah.
thinking like, wow, this is something that I don't hear very often. So it must be legit, like 6-figure, 7-figure. They'll say numbers. They'll talk about, Lamborghinis. So you kind of learning about the psychology stuff and what some of the other stuff we were
Hmm.
talking about, like that's powerful stuff when you can arm
Yeah.
yourself with
Yeah.
that psychological information and be able to pitch that
Yeah.
to people. Like it could be game changing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good, and look, I'm not certainly not saying I'm any kind of guru or anything like that, but people can talk, look at the testimonials from corporate clients, look at client testimonials, etc., etc. That's really the what if you're just starting this out, you want to be collecting that stuff, as you want to be collecting that social proof, and if
Yeah.
you're doing it all for the right reasons, and you actually, for people watching, if they're watching you and listening to this, the best thing that if they're starting, the best thing that someone can do is go out and help as many people as you possibly can.
Agreed.
Go and get some serious fuck off testimonials from people that say, Ryan is a rock star. He got me from here to here. I before Ryan, I was da 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 da, and now I'm da 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 da. You can't get enough of that. So go do that shit for free. Go coach people for free. Go and do talks for free. Go and get these case studies. Build them up. Get logos against your name, and that stuff is leverage. That is money in the bank.
Yeah, that's actually interesting you say that. There are people that talk about adding value and like giving away free stuff, but definitely not in that sense where it's like literally coach people and commit and give the time. I agree. I think it's powerful. And now just like hearing you say that, it's like that totally makes sense because if I can create the proof of concept for what I'm doing, then it's like you said, money in the bank. That makes sense.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Here's the difference, right? And we're all in this. We're all in this together. So people are obsessed with fans and followers and likes and hearts and all the rest, right? It's a popularity contest,
Yeah.
right? What you and check this out. What you don't see, and look at it. When we got off this call, look at between the lines. Look at how many people they've actually helped.
Mm.
Go and have a look at case studies. Go and have a look at the influencers. Every post is you on there. It's not a client, but it's you.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Where are your case studies? Where are the people that you've actually helped lose weight? Where are the people that you've helped go from here to here in their business? Where is their proud testimonial versus, here's me fucking sipping a coconut, doing some bullshit fucking quote from, that means nothing. Mind you, have done quote from coconut before, guilty, but at the end of the day, just getting in this earlier, you'll have a lot of young crew around you, mate. Like you want to be really reinforcing that, driving it home. I remember back in the day, I used to help people. And we do it now for our coaching, for our bucket list coaches. It's like, all right, now I've become a bucket list coach, or I've become a personal trainer, or I've become a coach, or whatever. And now I've done my certification. I've maybe invested in some training. All right, I'm going to charge this amount for people to see me. Where are they all? Come on, where are they all? Oh shit, they're not coming. Well, we're all on this free to fee seesaw, right? Go out, help as many people as you possibly can, and then you won't have any more time for free people. You're going to have to start charging them.
Interesting.
Right? And then you just, that's how it goes. How I started my speaking career, I went and talked. If you had 2 people in a room, I'd fucking talk. And because I was honing my speaking muscle, I was building up that I don't give a fuck muscle, my embarrassment muscle, my shit joke muscle. And at the end of the day, that's the apprenticeship that I want, your guys to do around you. That's the apprenticeship that everyone should be willing to go through in order to become a pro.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because, at some point, like since I've been a young kid, I've always had those, like, sitting in my living room, no one's around, do a double take, start giving the speech of my life, that kind of thing. So, I was going to ask you about that later on too, because you did a TEDx talk. And for me, that's in the speaking world, that's like the pinnacle of talks. So I was going to ask
mate,
what that was
yeah.
about.
And well, you saw my TEDx talk, yeah? I've got a different haircut in that. I've got a
Slick
mohawk, and
man. The mohawk was legit.
that was my no joke. That was my fuck you 40 haircut. I got that when I turned 40.
40th birthday.
And so, or some would call it a midlife crisis, maybe. But no, and as you see, about halfway through that, I actually ticked it off my bucket list as part of the talk. And there's 2,000 people in front of me, and there's 4 cameras on me. And me, when I do normal public speaking, I'm running around like an idiot, me staying on a 3x3 red dot is terrifying. So, but it helped. It definitely helped my career big time, and did some amazing gigs following that. But at the end of the day, that was on my bucket list as well for a long time, and on the speaking bucket list, so to speak. So definitely, and it's all about the idea we're spreading, which is the TED ethos. So the guy who runs TEDx Melbourne, which is the biggest one in Australia, I'd been trying to get onto his TEDx stage for a couple of years, but it wasn't until someone else, actually a handful of people, recommended that I should be on a TEDx stage, and that's how it actually all happened. Because I gave up on it. I went, no, John's not going to ask me. I'm over it. I'm too good for that anyway. I don't really need a TED talk. Yeah, bullshit.
Yes.
And it wasn't until I gave up and just went, what, stuff, but if it happens, it happens. And I went out and ran around the world speaking. And then it wasn't until we're at an event and John said, hey, Trav, I've got TEDx Melbourne coming up. Oh, really? Have you? G'day, John. I'd like to speak to you about it. And that was like a fist pumping moment, that one. It was amazing. And it was only because other people had recommended me. So that's where, go out, do your apprenticeship. But yeah, man, it's for a lot of speakers. It's one of the pinnacles, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see like a mixed kind of group of people too that usually do them. Like they look super scared, like definitely their first time, and they're kind of like super frozen, and they deliver that very like structured speech. And then some people, they feel more in their element. Like you even though you were staying in that circle, you still had some energy, and I thought that was super cool. Because that's what I thrive off of.
Yeah.
I thrive off energy, man. And people that are kind of just like looking down, kicking rocks, that kind of person, it really drives me nuts.
Yeah.
So I'm like, especially, Yeah, I tell people that I work with all the time, like, dude, it's 6 in the morning. Like, how can you be upset already? Like, what's happened so far in your day where you're upset? You know what I mean? So it's
Look, some
always,
people are just born victims.
yeah,
Yeah, life's too short. Life's too short for that, and that's all part of you know people living by default rather than by design. You can choose happiness. You can choose how you respond. You can set up your day to maximize your day, to optimize your day. It's not hard, but it is. But it is like a muscle in the gym. You got to work
yeah. That's my kid banging on the door there. I'll be on in a minute, buddy.
it.
Yeah.
You've got a kid?
I got two, yeah. Well, let me send
Oh
him.
wow.
You get some breakfast, okay? I gotta talk to Trav. You wanna say hi? Okay. You wanna say hi? You're very social. Here's my social son, Daniel.
Hey, here he is.
Daniel.
Hey, Daniel. I'm from Australia.
He's in Australia. I'm sure. This is a guy. This is cool.
Oh, rad. There you go.
All right, bud. You finish this conversation? Okay. I'll see you downstairs.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's a ball energy too. So he helps me. He helps me stay energized with his energy. I gotta be. But yeah,
Cool.
so the victim thing. You were talking about people are kind of born victims. Like where do you think that comes from? Like how you
Um, Society, family, peers. Uh, you um, look, you can easily start your day, finish the day by watching the news, right? No wonder we're all depressed. Um, and I think it's, I'd like to think that personal development and these sort of tools are getting out there and helping more and more people. But the scary reality is depression is climbing at a more rapid rate than these tools getting out there. And pre-COVID, we're already in a bad place. The mental health of the planet was already in a bad place. We're even worse now. But it's all conditioning. It's all conditioning. People unfortunately don't have the adaptability that we think they'd have. It's hard not to. We're right in the middle of it all at the moment. It's hard not to have moments of doubt. It's hard not. It's. I think it's nearly impossible to be, unless you work for Zoom, unless you own Zoom maybe or Amazon or one of these companies. But it's hard not to think about what's going on right now and be always optimistic. But that's just a human being. I think we've got this flight or flight kind of part of our brain that the monkey mind that likes to keep us safe, or what they call a reptilian mind that likes to keep us safe, keep us out of harm's way. So there's always going to be that level of doubt no matter what you do, or that level of trying to keep you safe. You can buy into that and be a complete victim if you want, or you can be a victor. So victims seriously play below the line. They use blame, they use excuses, and they deny that they've got a problem. But a victor, someone playing above the line, is someone that is accountable to themselves, take 100% responsibility for their own lot in life, and takes full ownership over everything they do and every thought that they have. Now, we oscillate between the two on a day-to-day basis, and it's also situational. But at the end of the day, if you're erring on the side of positivity, glass half full rather than half empty, you're more of a victor than a victim. Well, that shows you that you can train yourself to be less of a victim and more of a victor playing above the line in all sorts of situations. So you know all of psychology, and the same as what we do with Bucket List, it's just helping people take ownership over their life and ownership over their thoughts, ownership over their actions going forward. No matter what, even if the worst thing can happen, you can still take ownership over your thoughts and how you move forward out of a situation, no matter how harsh it is, right?
Oh, agreed. Yeah, I think I always something I flirted around with, and I'm not sure exactly how true it is. Kind of a philosophy in itself, but I always had this thought that I feel like people have a problem with making the distinction between excuse and reason. And reasoning is like, all right, I've identified an issue potentially, but it has everything to do with me and nothing to do with my external circumstance. If that's the truth, right? If I can change it and influence it, and then there's actual excuses where it's like, oh, there's nothing I could do about it because it was, da 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 da. And so I'm like, I wonder if people really have an issue with that, like, because they'll, because excuses feel like reasons, and when you do self reflection, you're like, oh, that's totally what happened, but it's not the end. That's not the end result. Like, it didn't have to be that way after it happened. So I
Yep.
always did that
Hey,
thought.
look, if you take it to zero and you just go, all right, everything is my fault. I created everything.
Yeah,
Just live with that.
it's funny you say
You
that.
know,
I've told you that before.
it's a crazy way to look at it. But if
Yeah.
you say, all right, it's all my fault, therefore everything is in my control.
Yep. Yeah. I told someone that one time. I think might have even been my wife. And yeah,
Yeah.
that didn't go over so well because I was just trying to like, back when I was, because we've been married for 4 years now. It was like right in the beginning, and I was like, what would really help, babe? I was like, you need to start making everything your fault. Did not go over well. And I tried to explain that philosophy, that mindset. It didn't help me out. So, but I agree.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that are afraid of that. You know, have you had that experience too? Like people, I think they know that, and there's a lot of things people know, but it's like they don't know how to actually like to use it, or they're afraid to like live by that. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
curious.
I mean, yeah, they're afraid to live by it because they're at risk of offending others and breaking pattern and like uh, not fulfilling, not playing the role in the movie of or getting out of character in the movie of their life, getting out of character in the movie of their people around them lives. Like when you break character and you're not yourself, and this is where personal development is really interesting. When people go to and they do a lot of personal development because of the for whatever reason, they read the books, they go to seminars, they get a coach, they do whatever, and they want to grow. What really does upset people is one person wants more for themselves while another person wants to stay where they are.
Hmm.
I went through a separation because of that. I outgrew my partner, and it was personal development. I was like, no, no more. I've drawn the personal line in the sand for me, and she was like, no, I'm happy being the way we are. I'm this, and I'm like, oh, come on, no, 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 and just you spoke a different language after a while.
Yeah.
So there's no sustainability built into that. And I think, picking the right partner has certainly got to be on that growth journey together if that's what you want for yourselves. Um, where was I going with that? I have no idea. What was your question?
Well, I was just talking about how I think people they're afraid of taking 100% responsibility because it obviously means that you
Yeah,
have to be capable to actually handle things and you have
yeah,
to learn skills. Because if I say I'm responsible for everything that happens to my children per se, and then something happens to them, and now
yeah,
I have to realize like
yeah,
I am not skilled at that. I may have an issue with maturity or discipline
yeah,
or leadership,
yeah,
whatever, and people they know that before they have to take
yeah,
responsibility, so they do nothing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Non-action is still an action.
Hmm.
Um, Yeah, that's where it's important to be very clear and definite about where you want to go and what you want to do, and then relaying that to everyone else around you. And it's what divides a lot of people, friends and family and in intimate relationships as well. Is the communication of where you want to go. One person can be you can be in a partnership with someone and one partner wants to is a victor, takes full responsibility for things, whilst the other is blaming the world and everyone else for their lot in life. And so that's going to be painful going forward. And that's the same with friends. Look at all your friends. Do a stock take of all your friends. I bet there's friends where you just love catching up with, and you add value to each other by virtue of conversation, hanging out with. And there's others, and you feel good after you've hung out, right? But there's others where when you hang out, you feel like you need a fucking wash or a holiday afterwards because you're just like drained.
Yeah.
So hopefully you're not looking at that friend in the mirror every time you go to a mirror, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So the point being is being mindful of who our time is our most valuable commodity, our most valuable asset. And self-leadership is a thing that gets talked about. No one really understands it. It's about you putting your own oxygen mask on first before you can help others. Right? It's about you creating, not in a dogmatic kind of way, and you should, you must, you have to live like I do.
Yeah.
It's about you showing up in the world how you want to show up, so and be the example for your kids and for others to follow. And that's gonna piss some people off, and people are going to try and claw you back into the way that you were. But others will just support you all the way in those changes.
Yeah, that makes sense. And all that, what you talked about breaking character in the movie of their life too. I want to go back to that because that to me that makes so much sense. Like that literally connects a lot of dots for me, Trav, for how like understanding how some people are, and even myself, because I think it sounds like you're saying that we easily kind of fall into this trap where we create this picturesque version of ourselves, like the way we want to be, and we're not actually there yet or that person. So we're trying to create it with like some falsities, some dishonesty, and then when people like are threatening to expose that, we're like, oh wait, I'm not actually that yet. So don't pull the curtain out yet. Let me wait another year, or whatever the case is for people. So they're kind of holding fast to that like facade they're playing with. And when people like you or people like me, where we try to say, hey, I'm trying to help you, like, let's see what's under there, they're like, no way.
Yeah, basic psychology is about, like, if a person wants to change, they say, I don't know where this is from, but they say that if a person puts up their hand and says, I want help, that's 50% of the problem already solved. So you're not pushing, as a coach, like I'm a coach to people, right? I'm a life coach, I'm a business coach, God, I've been a relationship coach, I've been everything coach. And the last thing a coach should do, and this is probably a good litmus test for a lot of the gurus out there, if someone's saying you should, you must, you have to, you need to, these are all programs and languages of comparison and of necessity. How dare I, as a coach, impose my worldview or my map of the world onto someone else? Like, you'd be on the receiving end of that and go, well, fuck you, you don't know my situation. How dare you try and impose your way of life onto me, because you don't know the shit that I'm going through. A coach acts more like a psychologist, a bunch of open-ended questions, get the solutions to simmer to the surface, or get the answers to simmer to the surface, and then have the client own those answers, and then take real ownership over their way forward with what bubbles to the surface. So the last thing is people need is someone telling them how to live their life.
Yeah. So what is that difference then? Like, what, just like, could you give me an example of like how that would sound? Because that's actually something that I've struggled with. Because again, with the reason for the podcast, all these things, I'm trying to reach out to young men and get them to take their life a little bit more seriously and realize that their 20s is a season of preparation so that their 30s and their 40s can be dominating and exciting times. And it's easy to fall into that trap, I found, where you like, hey, look, if you want to do this, you're gonna have to plan. Like you're gonna need to plan your life. So how would you say that differently?
I would say, don't take it from me, but I interviewed a guy today. Listen to what he's got to say at about 10 minutes in. I reckon, look, you may or may not. You may or may not get something out of it. Now, your job is to be a messenger at this point in time, if you want to help people, not try and be the guru.
Yeah, I like that.
You know, put people onto resources, and you're already doing that because you're already like, it's funny, if you go and interview 10 gurus in a space, what do you come, you become a guru yourself because you've interviewed 10 of the best, and you'll know more about what they say than anyone else getting around. So, you know, that's how you can climb that guru ladder, and by association also, you, know, you'll be noticed. The point being that it may not, you know, have it all not come from you, but you've got a podcast, you've got, you know, maybe books and speeches and that sort of thing. You connect the resources, connect the best resources for the people's needs at that point in time. You know, you may love like gifting books to people, recommending YouTubes, recommending TED Talks, recommending podcasts and that sort of thing. You become a helper to people, not the guru yourself. If you do enough of that helping stuff, well, you will become a guru in due course.
Yeah, because it definitely a turn off.
Doesn't all have to come from you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've never heard from that perspective. Because again, it makes sense. And I think with the self-help industry, when people start getting into it, it's sometimes, I guess, depending on who and you talked about earlier with the egomaniaism, if that's even a word. But it's like there is definitely a kind of a trap with self-help when you get into it. That it's like, hey, it's this way or no way. Like if you're not doing these things, like you're basically a loser. And I've been a part of
Yeah,
some
that's
cultures.
not cool.
Yeah, and I've been a part of some
Yeah.
cultures where they're very much like, "Hey, I'm in this. I'm going to help you," but then when you really reel back their speech, it's like, "Look, you basically suck if you're not doing what I'm doing," and I didn't like it. It was
That's not cool.
disgusting. Yeah,
No,
it makes
no.
me feel
And going forward, you got to respect everyone's model of the world.
I like that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because people will fight it. That will come to the surface, right? Like, and I think we just said about 50% of the problem is already solved. People raise their hands. So would you say, Trav, that you don't push people that don't raise their hand, like you would just, or you still try to help them in the most,
No,
just not at all?
most people find no, like it's okay. So for instance, if you've got a friend, right, and they've got an obvious problem, imagine trying to convince that friend who is in victim mode big time to go and see a psychologist or a therapist to talk about whatever they're going through. You try and do that. They will say what?
That he needs fixing. He's broke. He's jacked up.
Yeah, yeah. But they'll probably say, no, fuck you. You don't know what I'm going through. I'm no way am I doing that. But it actually takes something, a trigger or you know, maybe need things to get even worse before they actually self-elect to go, you know what, I need to go and see someone. You know, when people go into, using an extreme example, most people go into AA because they've hit rock bottom, or drugs because they've hit rock bottom. Everyone's left them. They've got no money. They've lost everything. It's like, all right, now, okay, that's actually rock bottom. Well, they need to get their own slap in the face, because you can go, no, 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 no. You know, I think you should, must, need to, have to. They're like, nah. Everyone's got, what do you call it? Okay, so I like this concept is in forex trading, or in I don't know if you do forex trading, or if you do stock market stuff, you can build in these things called a stop loss. So a stop loss is the computer program. Say in forex trading, is a computer program. It's an algorithm that you put in there, and you say, okay, well, I'm going to hedge my bets. I'm going to keep putting money in, but when I have to keep putting money in and that thing hits that stop loss, that self-imposed stop loss, the computer's just going to kick me out. Because if that thing's not in place, in which people do stuff up, if that stop loss is not in place, the computer's just going to it's just going to keep going down and down and down and down with no warning, with no alert, with no notification. You just keep losing all your money.
Right.
But if you've got a stop loss in place, it actually just stops you from doing that. It's a safeguard. So we've all got a stop loss for every single area of our life, right? So you can, like, say in a relationship, you can put in emotional deposits, like in a bank account, emotional deposits into that bank account. And you're putting in, you can call it friendships if you want, and you're just depositing these emotional deposits into this bank account. If you're getting no return, out of it, and it's not reciprocal, or you're investing in the business and it's not making any money, at what point do you go, fuck, enough is enough? I'm not getting anything out of this personally. For a lot of people, that's unconscious. You know, look at fitness, look at fat loss. It's like, how fat do you have to? And remember, I was 20 years in the personal training industry. I've said this to people. So how fat and how unhealthy do you have to get in order for you to actually get off your ass and stop doing something? Like, how bad does it have to get?
Yeah, that's
you know, and before you actually hit the treadmill and start eating some fucking greens. Like, how bad does it have to get? All right, well, you know, and that is very different for a lot of people. Well, you know, I can't play with my kids anymore. I can't play with my kids anymore because I'm puffed after like 10 steps. That depresses me. I walked up a flight of stairs and I fucking clutched my chest the other day. My doctor, guy in a white coat, said, you know what, if you continue down this path, see this scalpel? Well, that's going to be opening up your chest soon. Or if you don't eat right, yeah, you're going to go into shock because of diabetes and you're going to end up dead. Or it could be, you know what, I haven't been laid for 5-10 years because, and now I'm lonely. You know, I'm lonely and it could be a combo meal of all that shit for someone to go, fuck, enough is enough. Because just seeing myself in the mirror, trying on the summer clothes and not fitting into them, no, it's not enough. I can hide that with black, you know, but it takes, but what's the stop? What is that thing at the precipice of change? Personal development. People find themselves in personal development at that point in time. Like, fuck it, enough is enough. I'm going to buy that book. I'm going to go to that seminar. I'm going to watch that talk. I'm going to get that coach or that mentor. I'm now taking responsibility, and I know that I ain't got it in me to get myself out of this. I need to outsource to a certain extent and get other help.
Yeah, well, that makes
but
sense.
If someone has to hit that stop loss, that pressure point, before they have a self-recognized change of heart.
So if people
versus a coach on the way down saying, hey, you need to, you have to, you're going to get worse, it's going to get even worse. It's like, no.
Yeah. So just to kind of, so as you're saying that, I was thinking, if people aren't at that stop loss point, do they totally just reject the ideas of like self-help and, like, in your experience?
No,
like,
not everyone.
How do you get the
Not everyone. If
marginal-
someone likes you and trusts you, they might listen to you.
Gotcha.
You know, but you know, but people unfortunately have to hit that mark. The whole thing about bucket list is we want to wake people up before it's too late, before they get given a use by date.
Yeah.
And here I am talking about this, or as you saw in my TED talk, when I basically give people a virtual cancer diagnosis,
Yeah.
and the 80 squares thing, and it wakes everyone up.
Yeah.
I asked 3 questions in that talk. Who knows people have been diagnosed or died from cancer? Pretty much everyone puts up their hand. 2,000 people in front of me during that talk, and then how many people do you know have been diagnosed and died from cancer? And people putting up fingers. And I said, all right, how many of them made their 80 squares? Everyone's like, shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yep, and have a look around the room. And everyone's like, shit. As a speaker and I guess as a thought leader doing this sort of stuff, you've got to have ways to wake people up to get to realize, to get to that stop loss even faster to a certain, so you get them to realize that, stop believing. You got to disrupt to a certain extent for them to listen.
I like that. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Because the stop loss is a great analogy. And then if there's someone who's kind of in that marginal area and you see them decreasing, it just helps to show them the stop loss and be like, hey, if this is the point you're going to, you can wait till you get there, or you can start now. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that kind of the basis? Because here's something too I wanted to get into. I'm glad you kind of brought it up, because now we're kind of getting into the coaching. It sounds like a little more of, and there's a lot of people, Trav, that I've heard things where they are not super believers of like the life coaching thing. They think it's a bunch of crap. So I'm curious, it's like, talking to someone who's in it, successful in it, speaker, all this stuff, like what are the differences? Are there some really crappy guys out there that give it a bad name, or like, is there, you know what I mean? Like, if you can unpack that.
Yeah. No, that's a good call. Yeah. So I've got a problem with life coach. I'm a coach to life coaches, and I still don't call myself a life coach because it's largely intangible. It's wishy-washy, and there's a lot of people that where it's got a bad name. And this is not just in skeptical Australia or skeptical US or wherever. This is right around the world. Everyone's skeptic. Everyone's a skeptic of life coaches. Why? Is because everyone goes and does a life coaching course and then is all hyped up because they got their own personal breakthroughs and does exactly what we just talked about. You should, you must too. It comes out as a kitchen psychologist who's done a weekend course, and suddenly, this guru. It's like, dude, you just did a course, right? Go out and help some people first, like I was saying before.
Yeah.
And rather than just talk about it, go be it. Be the example for others to follow. And again, this comes back to that leadership, is go be the example for others to follow, rather than telling people how they should live their life. Go be the example so people ask you about your life.
Yeah.
That right, you've got an amazing family, great health, and you got the money. How did you do that? Because I know you're not talking about it a lot, but you are a great example of that. So how are you doing that? That's what you want. You don't want to be wasting all your energy going out and telling people how to do it unless they self-elect. This is attraction marketing versus it's pull marketing versus push marketing. But the key is for you to be the example for others to follow, right? And that's called integrity as well.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
No, absolutely. And yeah, because again, I've been a part of, I've done a ton of stuff, because I really got serious about this stuff, Trev, about 2 years ago. And,
Right.
I guess I kind of reached my stop loss now that we're getting into this. But it wasn't bad though. It was just like, I realized that as a younger man, like I wanted to achieve more than what I've seen, average people achieve. And I was like, well, if these people are doing these things and I'm not, like, I'm clearly not doing something right. And I started to, read books and, spend money on masterminds and coaches and things like that. And I've been a part of, some masterminds and stuff where that is very much the the culture where it's push and it's pressure and it's like you must, and for a while it was all right because I was growing a lot and I was learning different things at a rapid
Yeah.
rate. I didn't realize how like how gross it was, because it
Yeah.
was I bought into it, and then for me, I didn't realize it, Trev, until other people started getting really offended and like pushed off by how
Yeah.
I was talking about my stuff to them,
Exactly.
and they exposed me.
Exactly. And that's the thing. That's the thing. That's what happened in my first relationship. Exactly the same. And it happens all the time. People walk away from personal development seminars, come away 8 foot and bulletproof, and they're all hyped up, and someone who hasn't been in that accelerated learning environment will just like fucking, what's this cult that you've just been involved in, and
Yeah,
what have you just taken, and that can be so. And I was doing that probably at your age. I was doing that for years and years as well, and friends was like, oh geez, like take it easy, take it easy. I realized that no one wanted to come with me. No one wanted to read the stuff that I was reading. So I literally just shut up.
mm,
I literally just stopped talking about it. And because I realized that and this is my recommendation, I had to become the example,
right.
right? Walk my talk. I'm still learning,
Yeah,
but walk my talk. Makes sense?
absolutely.
So is there a part of you that needs to be more congruent with everything that you've learned? So it's
Yeah,
not just talk; it's actually like, here's my proof. Can you be the accountant that goes, yeah, well, this is the real me. I've got real results.
yeah. No, absolutely. Definitely areas where, increase the congruency for sure. For sure.
Mm, mm.
So there's actually, it's kind of a question. It's kind of, I know we're kind of running out on time. I don't want to take all your time. But there was kind of two other main points I kind of wanted to get at. And the first one is for other people who want to, keep going in the, coaching space. So they want to get into the coaching space, or, I've seen it a lot in like network marketing where they're using network
Yeah,
marketing now as a means to like basically be life coaches. And so like for
right.
those folks, how do they get really more out of it? Like really help people? Like how do they really start helping people instead of just pushing, like we were just talking about, like just pushing people into this dark corner where they're like, I either have to be this or I'm a loser.
Um, okay, so from the coach perspective,
Yeah.
um, uh, go and help as many people as you possibly can, and that is like uh, be be the guy that just is there for everyone. If you want to grow a business, get one client, right, and look after them like they are gold. Look after them. Be known for that, because it's that reputation that you can start building client by client, interaction by interaction, and be someone that goes way over and above in service, and do it for, like I said, if you're new, then do it for free. Go and get this is how you learn. This is the apprenticeship. um, a coach once says to me, even though you might have doubts, and if you're going to be a speaker, you might have doubts, and you're like, who am I? Who am I to stand on stage and do a talk about personal development? Who am I to go out there and charge full rate for a coaching client? Who am I? Who am I? All those negative self doubt, that language, and we've all got it, by the way. No matter how big or how much success you might have out there. But the coach said, and I asked this of my coach at the time, how can you get rid of that? There's like Tony Robbins, like have this going on. It's like, yeah. That's just built in to keep it safe. It's that reptilian brain I spoke about before. But If you go out there and help enough people and really help them, and they come back to you with positive reinforcement, testimonials, etc., with results, their praise, their adulation, the positive feedback that you get, that noise will drown out the inner noise. No truer word has been spoken. People who have doubts about themselves and their abilities are not helping enough people.
Yeah.
So, so double up, help more people, help more people, help more people until you haven't got any more fucking time in the day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I haven't, I mean,
Be of complete serve, be selfless and be complete service to other people.
yeah. I mean, it's like common sense. I mean, if you haven't helped a ton of people, there will be more self-doubt because you have no proof for yourself if people are actually getting changed by what you're talking about. Yeah, so that makes sense.
Yeah, and say in business or just in anything, go get them a result fast too. Like if they're into a business, like you mentioned network marketing, friend, go get them there. Like if you're their upline, they've come into your business. The best thing you can do, and I've been involved in that world as well, is just get them to shadow you, and you go help them get a result. Not here's your packet full of shit, and do your best next. Go get them a result
Yeah.
as fast as you can. So what's your onboarding process look like around that? Is it just churn and burn, or is it slow down, get them a serious result, get them their first 4 or 5, whatever it is, get some early wins, get some money in the door, and you've got a referrer for life. True?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. That makes sense.
And
Because so
I'm
much,
speaking from experience.
yeah, yeah. And so much of it is that kind of churn and burn. And people, I don't think a lot of times people don't want it to be that way, but it ends up being that way. Right. Because
Yeah,
like,
we've all got a quota and stuff.
yeah. Yeah. And it's like maybe they
Yeah,
don't realize how
yeah,
much time and investment it actually takes into investing into one person at a time. And people want things so
yeah,
fast, like microwave mentality. So it's like almost like they can't
yeah,
slow down because it affects their bottom line. And they're like, well, I just got to get it now. But you're saying
yeah,
your whole talk is like that. If you want to, it's like slow down to speed up, and really helping
yeah,
people, many people as you can, will definitely speed the process up because then you have real testimonials and like, yeah, real proof. And that just makes everything easier because then
yeah.
everything else, they see
And
that.
dude,
Yeah.
whatever you do, if you're going to come into this world, you want to join Ryan's team because he's going to, he'll, you just keep going. How's this as a promise? I'm going to keep helping you until you get the result that you want.
That's legit. That's legit.
Straight up.
Yeah. Yep.
Are
Because I'm,
you are you willing? Are you willing to go all in like me? Because if you're willing to run, I'll run with you. If you want to walk, I'll walk with you. But if you want to go all in, I'm all in. That is my promise to you.
yeah, that's legit. Because I mean, you mentioned earlier too that you just shut up, and I kind of got to that point too, like recently, especially with the more I start and the more I do, I did have that inclination to like talk a lot about it, just to for marketing, advertising, whatever. And then I started getting to this point where people that I'm telling, you can tell they don't give a rip. They're like, oh yeah, I'm good, man. I don't need anything. And I started to take more of the humble approach and be like, you know what, I'm done talking about like what others can benefit from or whatever. I'm just talking about what I've learned and how I've benefited from it. And I've seen a lot bigger
Yeah,
return from people saying, "Oh, so you're just saying that this helped you," and they're more willing to do it. And it's the craziest thing. But
yeah,
yeah, definitely made a difference in
yeah.
that.
And the people the people that I help are like behind the people that I help are like they're like in the VIP section of the nightclub. I really look after those crew. All right, and these are the people that can look me in the eye and say I'm serious, and then I'm all in. We go after it, but that's not everyone. That's
Right.
not everyone.
Yeah.
So you got to prove to me, you got to qualify to me that you qualify to be in this group. You qualify to get my attention. I only coach up to 5 clients myself. I
Oh, at a time.
charge way too much. Yeah, at a time.
Wow.
I charge way too much, and I only deal with a certain type of client, and I only work with people for not less than a year. A private client,
Wow.
right? And I've only got the bandwidth because I'm founder and CEO of a couple of companies as well as, including Bucket List Guy, and I'm involved in other investments and stuff. But I've only got bandwidth for 5 people. I only want my attention on less than 5 people. So if you're going to get my attention, you've got to pay for it, and you've got to be serious, and you've got to abide by my rules. Oh, but what about, can we, no,
Yeah.
it's the rules.
And
I've
and
laid it
that
out for you.
yeah, and that right there is because again,
But
I
I will get you, but I tell you, if you're one of those 5, you've got my attention, and I am as competitive as fuck, and I will make it happen. I will make it happen. And yeah, and I've got a history of making it happen. True?
yeah.
Yep. That's the results I've already built. So that's my promise to you. We go all in. If you're one of those 5, we go all in. Uh, if you're not willing to do that, I respect that. Maybe wrong place, right? Wrong place for you, wrong time for you. That's cool. Work your own stuff out. Get back to me.
Yeah. And it definitely seems like it's more rewarding in that regard. And you have the actual time you can actually help the people. Because if you tried to spread that out, it wouldn't be as effective.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's harder for some people to do that because of just that mentality? Like they want to make all their money based on that. Like they want to win so bad that if they deny people and they make the barrier to entry higher, that it's going to take much longer, and people just don't have the patience for that. Like, what? I guess here's the question,
Yeah.
Trev.
People don't have
How did
the,
you?
I'm not in a desperate, I don't need clients.
Right.
You get to a point, I don't need them. They need me.
Yeah.
I don't even advertise my coaching services. People actually just get referred to me, or they find me, and then there's quite a process for them to qualify. But the point being is that's the positioning. That's my own positioning around it. It's not trying to be arrogant or anything like that. I just can't be fucked with people that are going to waste my time and try and negotiate on my terms. It's just like, that's not what I do.
Yeah.
So go find another coach. I'll refer you on to someone.
Yeah. It makes sense.
So because of everything else in my life, I don't want to deal with bullshit, and I just want to, that's how I position my coaching. Now that's not for everyone. Other people might be a bit more mass market, and it's fair enough.
Yeah. That's interesting. So how do you deal with everything that you've been doing? Like how do you handle like the time management piece and all these things you got going on?
No, it's called time leadership. I don't manage time, so it's time leadership, and I create my day, and then I put the pieces of the puzzle together in the way that I want, and I have team that are way better than me in certain areas, and I get them who are specialists in certain areas to do the job that I pay them to do, and I concentrate on my sweet spot. I don't think I've worked that out yet, but I'm kidding myself. I think I know what my sweet spot is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like how you put that though. Time leadership, not management. So how about those people that
Yeah.
have jobs and things like that, and they don't have the time freedom that and I guess in regards to their like they don't have to if they don't want to. Because from my perspective, what I understand of your situation is that you don't have to do anything. You can do whatever you want.
No.
As far as
No,
time.
I've only ever worked for myself, man. I've never actually had a job in my life.
Right. So that freedom, like how do, people who don't have that kind of freedom, how do they implement time leadership if they're doing other things? You know what I mean? Like how would you coach a person
Yeah.
who's in that
Well,
position?
number one, I'm not imposing that people need to change anything for starters. Number one, are you happy? Yep. Cool. Let's not talk again. are
I've,
you not are you not happy? Yes. Why? Because of this and this and this reason. Okay, cool. We've got something to work with.
yeah.
So, but there's a lot of different productivity hacks and how you run your life and how you design your day and all that sort of thing. I've got a whole process around that, but maybe more about that later. But everyone's got I don't believe in work-life balance. That's a bullshit term. It's about being obsessed with everything. If you want to be a great parent, be obsessed with it. If you want great health, be obsessed with it. Don't try and balance anything. Balance is bullshit. It means you got 50% here, 50% here, and nothing ever balances. If you're trying to grow a business or get laid, nothing balances. You sacrifice everything to get it done, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, people have got to be okay with that concept. So I call it work-life blend.
Ah.
So everyone's got their own definition of what work-life blend is.
Yeah. That's interesting. Please, sorry.
Yeah, like working from home.
Yeah. 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 We've been on a crazy schedule recently because of like how this COVID stuff has impacted the job. And so the wife and I kind of do this on and off thing. So one day she's home, one day I'm home because the daycares aren't, available or whatever.
Yeah.
It's definitely been an interesting work-life blend. But I really like that, the work-life blend, because I've been honestly, Trev, I've been back and forth on that. And when I first got into personal development and stuff, it was like I heard that there is no such thing really as balance. And then I recently kind of stumbled onto some other stuff from some other guys that talk about how if you want that balance, it's just a matter of doing a smaller percentage of the things that are important to you so that you're still pushing the needle forward in those small areas or in those important areas, but it's not like I'm trying to knock it out of the ballpark. It's like getting base hits
Huh.
in the primary areas is kind of how
Yeah,
this.
what can you do each day? What can you do each week? And it's those little one percenters.
Right.
For
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
Yeah, and I guess the only issue I've ran into that with that concept, because this guy that I've followed for years now, it's been like 4 years I've been doing this guy's thing, and the biggest issue is that again he has a time freedom that I just haven't had yet. So even the
Yeah.
time he takes to do all four of those categories and stuff, it's still like, hey man, sometimes I gotta take that down a notch. So this is
Mm.
interesting. I
Mm.
like that whole concept. The life blend versus the
Yeah.
balance. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I heard you wrote a book recently, right? And that's out there now.
No, not yet. About a month away, to be
Month
honest.
away.
It's
Okay.
yeah, called the My Bucket List Blueprint. So it's very much like my talk. Lots of cool stories and stuff in it. Yeah, that's been a bucket list item for I don't know as long as I can remember. So I'm not really good at sitting down and writing books. No, I'll reframe that. I will be. I am a good book writer. I am a good writer. But but negates everything you've just said. So it's out soon, and I hope to write more.
Awesome. Yeah, it's one of mine too. That's
Not
one of
I
mine.
hope. Not I hope to write more. I will write more.
You'll
There
write
you go.
more. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, it's one of my bucket list items too. Like it's something that I've had a few things since I was a kid that just for whatever reason I found very nostalgic and just very fulfilling. And for me, I guess some of it's legacy. Like when you write a book, that could stand forever as long as humanity's around.
Mm.
So it's just
Mm.
one of those things,
Mm.
very nostalgic for me, and I'm like, one of those things I got to get done. you know so it's
That's
really
it.
cool.
Yeah.
What has that experience been like for you, writing the book and everything?
Shit. Yeah, I've had to get helpers. I'm a perfectionist, so that's my problem. And
Same.
I write it and then rewrite it and then write it and then rewrite it. So but I've had to put the line in the sand and go, it's a bit, it's an expensive business card, but at the end of the day, I've got to do it
Yeah.
because I've got all these other books in me that I want to get out, but this one's got to get done.
Yeah. It's interesting you talk about
I
perfection.
will let you know when it's done, mate. I will let you
Yeah.
know. I will let you know when it's done.
I'm all about it. I'm gonna grab it. I'm gonna grab it. It's funny you mentioned the perfectionism too, because I really started digging into this, and part of it's stemming in emotional intelligence and things. And I realized that I kind of grew up with this really bad like people pleasing kind of mentality, and just afraid to
Yep.
rock the boat and things. And even to the point
Right.
where like I'd be trying to reply to someone in a message or something, and I'd be like, everything I could possibly think to say doesn't sound like it's the appropriate thing. It sounds like I'm being, overly crass, overly harsh, too chintzy, like wimpy. That like there are times where I won't
Right.
reply to people just because I'm like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to respond in a way that seems like, you know what I mean? So it's funny you mentioned that because I'm
Yeah.
not at that. So,
Yeah. Dare to be disliked, mate.
what's that?
Dare to be disliked.
Yeah, it's hard. It's definitely harder than it sounds. So it's interesting.
You'll get over it. When you get older, you just don't care as much what people think.
I mean, it
Not
definitely
not
seems
an,
like,
not being an arsehole or anything like that. Just I haven't got time to worry about what other people think of you. It's
yeah,
like, all right, well, I'm doing my best, and if you don't like it, then that's your problem. That's totally cool. It's not my problem to. It's not my concern about if you like me or not. I'm not a people pleaser, and after a while, you're just like, I'm doing my thing, and what really matters to me is my family and their happiness and my friends, and so yeah. And if you're doing good out in the world, you're not going to get too many haters. If you don't rip people off, you're not going to get too many haters. So if you do the right thing and you're in integrity with your message and whatever you say you do, um, that's a rare commodity. So
yeah,
just do that.
agree. Working on that. Taking your
Anyway,
last rephrasing, and that's gonna be me. I'm gonna get to that point, and it's definitely work in progress. Like it's getting
cool.
better, slowly getting better. But yeah, definitely daring to be disliked is something that actively pursuing. You know, actively pursuing. But hey, I know it's been a little over an hour now, and
Yeah, man, I'm about to send you an invoice for this one. So yeah, let's.
hey, I'm willing to pay it. I mean, this has been priceless. It's been a great conversation. I think it'll help a lot of people. And
All good, man.
yeah, one of the things that I tell a lot of people is you got to be willing to pay. And I
Yeah,
know you
yeah.
mentioned
Pay
this
to
joke and
pay
things,
to
but like,
play.
yeah, no, for sure.
I've spent hundreds of thousands on coaches and stuff over the years.
Yeah, because it works. I mean,
Crazy amounts.
even the crappy ones I've gotten when it's
Yeah,
like it was something that helped me out. So
yeah,
that's awesome. But
yeah.
Trav, hey man, I really appreciate you. You coming on and talking to me, and I took lots of notes.
All good.
I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm going to be implementing some stuff. So and I like the verbiage too. Like
Love.
two things, man. Energy and verbiage for me is it's cool. And again, I told you a little bit about my childhood dream to speak as well. So finding that
Yeah,
voice and finding my verbiage and stuff and owning that is something that I've been looking for. Um, so
yeah,
oh
yeah.
yeah, last thing
Well,
is
well, there you go, mate. I mentor speakers. I'm the ex president of the Professional Speakers Australia Association. So I run the and on what they call a CSP. A CSP is a certified speaking professional. There's only a few handfuls of us in the world that have got this CSP accreditation, and that sort of says to conference organisers, event planners, people putting on events, it says this guy or this girl, this speaker is professional, and they will do a great job, and you kind of guarantee that you're on a winner. So you got to prove to the board over in America and here in Australia, the Global Speakers Federation, that you do practice what you preach, and you got to give them client testimonials and film footage of you speaking and this sort of thing. So yeah, I do the last sort of 4 years I don't advertise this much at all because people come to me. But yeah, I do speaker mentoring and how to get people on stages and how to get them gigs and how to get them on TEDx stages and this sort of thing, and the branding and positioning of people as well. So it's not just speaking; it's about being really a thought leader.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that seriously, because yeah, I've been wanting to do it for a
Yeah,
while, and the closer I get to being done with my job, that's when I've kind of told myself I'm really gonna kick it into full gear and pursue this, with the time freedom and
cool.
stuff. So I'm gonna look into it. So Trav, just let
Yeah,
everyone know
sweet,
how
man.
they can connect with you and get more in touch with what you got going on and become a
Yeah,
bucket list.
it's yeah. I mean, probably the best way to go is go to thebucketlistguy.com or for the or bucketlistcoach.com if you're interested in that side of things. Or what am I on social media these days? Trav Bell dash the Bucket List Guy on LinkedIn and Facebook. And what's my Instagram handle? Bucketlistguy.Trav
Yep.
Bell, I think. I'm pretty
Yep.
positive of that. Yeah.
Yep.
There you go. Cool.
Awesome. Hey, well, Trav, again, thanks for having me, man. Or, thanks for coming on and yeah, having the conversation. It was great.
All good, man. Cheers, Ryan.